Welcome to Trent's DIY Adventures. In today's video, I show you how I make this faux live edge growth chart. Let's get into it.
So here's the growth chart that I'm working on for my son. And this is just a common 1x6 inch wide board. It was 8 foot long. I cut it down to roughly 7 foot. And then Thomas and we just took a hammer, some rocks. I've got a little rock pad, RV pad that we took out there, jumped on it a couple times, put some indentations to kind of distress it. And then I put a little bevel on it using my battery operated circular saw and sander. I didn't want it to be perfect beveled with a router or anything like that. I wanted it to be a little rough, uneven, because when you go put the stain on it, and I did it to both sides, and that'll give it, hopefully give it a faux kind of live edge look to the board. And there's kind of the beveled edges on it. You could use router, do whatever you want to. I've used the stencils I bought on Amazon, taped them out, starting at 6 inches. Because of the baseboards and everything else, I want to measure up from the floor to where the start of the board is going to be. I'm going to be up 6 inches from the floor. So that's where my markings start, at 6 inches. And then you just line them up, each of the numbers right there, and then you go out and trace them out. I cut the board to, well, it looks like I'm a little short of 7 foot. 6 inches up, yeah, 7 foot, 6.5. But short change in my son, I'm only putting on 6'6". And then I'll leave this spot for maybe a header or his birthday, do some other stenciling up here. So that's a lot easier than trying to measure it out myself. Doing different lengths and stuff is just buying the stencils from Amazon, and I'll leave a link to those. And I just use painter's tape that easily peel off. And you can see, I just traced with the pencil. See the numbers and the lines all the way up. And my wife wants me to wood burn those in, so I'll have to go get a wood burning kit. So I ended up retracing the letters and inch marks with a fine tip Sharpie. So I'm changing plans. I'm going to actually put the stain down and then sand before I do the wood burn on these markings. And I thought the pencil would just sand off underneath the stain. So thought I'd put a little bit of a more permanent mark in there that would soak into the wood and maybe give me my markings underneath the stain. And we'll see how this works. We're going to wipe it down and go into stain next. So I've just finished adding our second coat of wood stain, again using the Varathane Early American that I've used on a lot of my other projects. We seem to like this color. We're going to let that soak in. I did 2 coats on this one for a little bit darker tones. I want to leave the edges here a darker color. I'm just going to sand the flat surface where the numbers are at. And probably what you're going to see as the effect is the grains in the wood don't absorb as much stain as what the meat in between, I don't know if it's called meat, but the grain in between the actual grains. So you'll get a reverse effect is when I go to sand it, the grain will be white, and then the veins in between will be the darker stain. And I think that'll give it a nice little cool antique. I don't know if antique's the right word, but give it a nice little look. But got 2 coats of stain on that. Let that soak up overnight. Dry. I'll flip it over. I'll probably put 1 on the backside just so it's not bare wood on the backside. And then I'll do a sanding. So we'll come back after this dries and I do my first coat of sanding. Okay, so here we are. This is after sanding. And all the markings for the numbers and letters sanded off, which is fine. We'll just have to go in and remark them. So that was kind of a wasted step. Get your sanding done and then do your letters and markings or however you want to do that. But I think that turned out pretty cool for the top edge. Again, trying to go for that faux live edge board look. Got the dark edges with the sanded rough surface here with the little pits and everything in there. Gives it a nice distressed look. I think that's going to look kind of neat. Now on to the next step of retracing the letters and the inch markings, and then we'll burn those in. I've gotten the stencil marks traced back onto the board. We have picked up a wood burning set from Walmart. It was at 20 bucks. I'll leave a link in the description. Instructions don't give you a whole lot. At least the guide on the back here gives you the settings based upon the color dial on it, what type of tips we use. I'm just going to use the universal tip. First time doing any wood burning, so I have a sample board here that I will be doing my practicing on before I go to the main board. Got the wood burning torch warming up, and I've got my dial set to that middle red color there. It says it might take a couple minutes for it to warm up, and we hold the pen just like you do a pencil, they say. Yeah, it's not hot enough yet. We'll give that a few minutes to warm up. Okay, we're going to give this a try. I think these marks are just as wide as this tip. I'll put the camera down and I will proceed. Okay, so there are the ruler marks, and not perfect, not too bad for my first time with a wood burner. Had to stop and take a break. I'm going to switch out to a smaller calligraphy pen to do the numbers, or a smaller tip to do the numbers. But definitely have to take your time, have patience. Maybe wear some gloves. The pen gets a little hot on the fingers and you're using some pressure, so you can get a little sore. But I don't think that looks too bad. A little closer look. Got the burned edges around here. I think I'm going to take a just a little quick 220 sand over the top and kind of get some of that burnt edge off, and then it might also get rid of some of my pencil marks from laying out the stencils. So, next step. So I've gotten the numbers done now, and put my son's birth date up top, and vertical down the board. We have to go get some stencils, but we'll put his name along the 5, 6, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Run it vertical along here. We'll put his name up in there. So got to finish that. Looking pretty good so far. And the smaller tip was a little bit harder to navigate. Of course, I wasn't doing straight lines. I had a lot more smaller stuff. Knots were kind of tough, but a little bit of practice. But I don't think they turned out too bad. Okay, so I finished up putting my son's name on there and his birthday, doing the wood burning. Now I'm going to do a quick sand of 220 with my orbital. I'll also kind of take down these edges, smooth those off a little bit, maybe lighten those up a little bit. Try and get some of the pencil mark. And I end up actually having to use some pen around tracing the stencils. So yeah, the letters for my son's name, I used stencils to trace those out. And then kind of freehanded it from there. Didn't get, or didn't stay too specific to the lines. Just try to do my best I could with the stencil. So next step is to do a quick sand, see how it looks. Probably touch up some of the burnt wood marks, and then onto sealing it.
Okay, so I have now sanded. And to get the pencil and pen marks off, I had to go a little bit more aggressive, used 100 grit, but I think, you know, as Bob Ross used to say, there are no mistakes, just happy accidents. And for the look I'm going for kind of that antique, rustic, live edge deal, I think going with the sander, I did 100, got all the marks off, and it took it down and, you know, cleared out, hit some of the highs and lows, left some darks and lights in here, and the letters turned out pretty awesome. That I think that worked out pretty good. And then after the 100 grit, I went back over with 220 just to smooth out the rough finish on it. But I think we're ready for stain. I kind of like that look. Just kind of fits the overall look. So now we're on to not stain, but doing some sealant over the top of it just to protect everything. On to the next step. So like in some of my other projects, we're just going to be using this Varathane triple thick polyurethane coat. I'm just going to do one coat over the top of this one just to seal everything up. I don't want a real protectant or a real thick coat on here because we're going to use just a Sharpie to mark it on. But just want a good coating for sealing off this top surface. So here's the finishing touches on the wall. I think it turned out pretty nice. And down here you can see, start the 6 inches up because you come off the level of the carpet, get up over your baseboards, and you don't need to have all that measurement down there. So just mark out where you're measuring and find out where you want your hangers at. Show you here. I use the little D-ring holders. I was using some existing nails in the wall that we had a previous picture hanging on, so I kind of had to do some funky measuring to get it to fit. But just a couple D-rings on here, hold it up. And she is on the wall. And I've double checked the measurements and I'm right at the right measurements overall. I think it looks good. And that is how I built this faux live edge growth chart. We've already used it. Got the one mark on here with Thomas at 3 years. Nice, just fine tip Sharpie. If you like it, please click the like button. If you have any questions, please leave those in the comments below. Thank you for watching.